Hello, back for another week of some discovery that I've had on H1B stuff. Some of it is going to make you mad. However, I promise, for my sake too, that I'm going to end it with some positives. Knowing that there's a game being played against you. If you know how it's being played, then maybe you can kind of come up with your own hacks to live above the circumstances, instead of always being below them, under them. And a few weeks ago, I made a video when it came to finances. And I know the game that's being played with us there in terms of our currency and what banks and governments do to the average worker and the things that you can do within your own power, take agency so that you can live above the circumstances in that realm. We're going to do the same thing today. We're going to cover a couple of articles. One I wanted to talk about last week, but I didn't have enough time. But I'm going to go into detail today. Two main articles and some suggestions. And we're going to end this up positive. But there are going to be some things that probably are new to you. They're new to me. And let's get into it. The first article is from the Gateway Pundit. The H1B visa scam is bigger and worse than we thought. I had a video called the H1B scam. Well, I didn't say scam, but I said the H1B situation is worse than you thought. That was the title. Well, this came out about last Sunday, I think. And I'm not going to read it word for word. I've already read it all. I'm going to cover the highlights in my opinion. By the way, look at this picture. This is funny to me because this actually looks like what it looked like when I worked at Bank of America. This is what it looks like when you're working in IT at Bank of America. It was me, a couple white guys, one white girl, and all these people, or people who look like them. That's what IT is like these days, even at a company called Bank of America. Can you believe it? Anyway. But it starts off saying President Trump recently cracked down on the H-1B program, requiring companies to pay $100,000 to sponsor a worker. Well, we know that. That was what came out in his proclamation, in his, some people call it executive order. The program has been deliberately exploited to replace rather than supplement American workers. In practice, it now serves to import general IT and tech workers, displacing Americans and driving down wages. Over the past 30 years, a pattern has emerged in which hiring an Indian HR manager often leads to a steady increase in Indian workers until Americans become a minority in certain departments or entire companies. Kind of like Bank of America, because the CIO there, CTO, is Asian Indian. Kind of like maybe Microsoft, I don't know, but I know that their CEO is Asian Indian, kind of maybe like at Google. Their CEO is Asian Indian, maybe now at IBM, same thing. So if it can happen at the HR level, imagine what happens when the CEO or the chairman of the board is of that ilk. Wages get suppressed, discouraging Americans from even entering these fields and reinforcing the false claim that there are jobs Americans won't or can't do. But I want to get down here to the nitty gritty. This is the cool part. This guy named Salvatore Militello. He spent decades in the IT sector, both as a technician and later as a recruiter. Told the writer of this article in an interview how the H-1B program has harmed the industry. Well, I also was a technician, then I became a recruiter for a half dozen years, and now I'm back as a hands-on IT person. So I can understand his perspective. This is what made this article interesting. He said he started off working with IBM around the year 2000, and then he became independent. From about the year 2000 to roughly 2015 or 2016, there was a trend of bringing people from India over to Microsoft. He would occasionally work on campus managing these difficult projects for Microsoft. They were called rescue projects. He recalled companies claiming they couldn't find qualified Americans, but he didn't believe it. He said, I'm thinking, yeah, you could find people. The reality, he said, was that Companies simply didn't want to pay American wages. Militello noted that salaries offered to Indian workers were 30 to 40% below the market average, which in turn pushed wages across the board downward. He saw a broad pattern of offshoring tied to H1B visas. And I want to skip through some of this and get to some more nitty-gritty. American job seekers, which I've been one, are now familiar with aggressive Indian recruiters who contact them with vague offers, demand resumes and personal details, and provide little real information. I don't know how true this is for others, but that is true for me. I almost want to create an email macro that I could just hit a button and it automatically replies to these emails coming from these Indian recruiters saying, what does it pay? Anyway, he says these resumes are often harvested to spice up Indian candidates' profiles or to fabricate a paper trail showing that domestic workers were considered and rejected, even though the jobs are reserved for pre-selected H1B applicants. So they could be using your resume to spice up the background of somebody else. Or, as it says, they can create a paper trail showing that you were considered but rejected, because they're, in the back of their minds, reserving these jobs for a pre-selected, an H1B candidate that they already have in mind, some visa candidate, whether it's H1B or OPT, that they already have in mind. This explains why so many Americans are contacted repeatedly about jobs they never hear back on. Fake recruiters use domestic resumes, the resumes of citizens, as evidence of unsuccessful screenings, creating the documentation they need for visa fraud. We actually tried to reach these people, but they're not available or they're not a fit. So now we can hire the H-1B person. That's fraud. After moving into recruiting, Salvatore Militello was asked to review resumes from Indian applicants. What he found was that applicants would say that they were H-1B, but they weren't. They were here illegally. How do I know? Because I checked, he said. When he explained that without a visa, the company could not sponsor them, applicants often replied, "That's okay. I have a friend with a corporation in the U.S. You can pay the corporation and they will pay me." This was one of many scams. Here's another scam. In addition to these interactions with job seekers, Militello described the constant outreach from Indian scam recruiters, saying, "We've got 20 candidates and their first name is Singh, Amit, Sumit, you get it, 20 of them." So basically, here's an example of an email he would receive. "Hello, greetings for the day. This is Ganesh from Sinar Solutions Incorporated, working as a bench sales recruiter. We have excellent consultants in our bench, who are actively looking for projects on contract to contract, corp to corp or corp to hire. Please let me know if you have any suitable requirements. Kindly share me requirements with." Well, share with me the requirements. The recruiter's email itself demonstrates multiple violations. For example, the H-1B program requires that a specific job can't be filled by an American worker, yet the email shows that they had candidates first and were seeking jobs second, exactly the opposite of the law. It also implies the workers were on the bench, waiting without pay for placement, another violation of federal rules. These are things that I didn't notice before, that there's a possibility that my background could be used to bolster someone else's. Or they could just use my background to say, hey, we reached out to him, he's not qualified. They could have even erased some stuff from my background saying, we reached out to Tori or John Smith or whomever, and they could have erased something from our resume saying they're not qualified, and put that stuff on somebody else's resume and say, they are qualified, we want this candidate, they're H-1B, or they're this visa. Some sort of shady stuff. Whatever you got to do to get the 55 million people in America with visas. Anyway, again, I'm setting the stage here. I promise I'm not going to make you want to scream too much. We're going to scream about the problem, but we're going to talk about some potential solutions and how we can hack the situation to live above the circumstances instead of below. That leads me to this second article, which is from jobs.now. I mentioned jobs.now before in another video, and jobs.now basically got their start because they recognized that some companies are purposely advertising their jobs in obscure publications or newspapers or in ways that people don't normally apply for jobs these days to reduce American participation in the job hiring process. And so what they've done as a part of a hack on their end is they find these obscure job listings and then they put them on their website. Thousands of folks will apply for those jobs. So now those companies can no longer say we don't have enough American interest or qualified Americans to fill these jobs. So that's the whole purpose of them putting out this website. This is an article on the website called Proposal to Protect Skilled American Workers Through Visa Reform. And the article came out September 15th, a mere 4 days before President Trump initiated his proclamation, or some people call it executive order, to reform the whole H1B and non-immigration process. The whole thing about the $100,000 fee for new visa applications for H1B folks. I'm not going to read all this word for word, but I like to start it off here. I know we're familiar with the problem, but I like how they worded it here. They said public databases show that immigrants are commonly being sponsored by major companies for fairly common and unspecialized jobs that many Americans would be qualified and eager to do. Jobs like entry-level software engineers, accountants, marketing, and financial analysts that generally require a university education, but whose skills can often be learned on the job. And a key part of our middle class. Well, of course, if it's entry level, it could be anybody. You can go to a university, find a graduate, or high school, find a graduate for an entry level job and train them up on the job. You do not need to leave the country to sponsor somebody for that. And they go even further by saying, for example, the country's largest H1B employer, Amazon, that's sad to know. Amazon is the nation's largest H1B employer. They say they had over 7,000 applications for H1Bs in 2024 alone, and 45% of those roles paid under $150,000. And their most common H1B job title was Software Engineer 2, a role whose title makes it clear it is only one step above entry level. These results demonstrate that for the biggest and most well-known and desirable H1B employers, it's extremely common to use H1Bs to fill early career roles that don't require extensive specialized experience. And then skip ahead, they say specifically during perm labor market tests. Well, perm here does not mean like a permanent job. It means more like permanent resident. It specifically stands for the Program Electronic Review Management Process, which is the first step for certain foreign nationals seeking permanent residency in the U.S. through employment-based immigration, specifically for the EB2 and EB3 visa category. So it's part of someone going through the steps to become a permanent resident and getting their green card for employment purposes. Here it says specifically during perm labor market tests, it has become common industry practice for employers to rig the recruitment process to avoid finding qualified U.S. workers. Employers abuse the minimum perm requirement process of posting ads on state workforce agency and in newspapers, which are not common job recruitment for professional jobs in 2025, especially for IT, especially for tech. We're used to applying for jobs online. So they want you to go to a state workforce agency, and I tend to avoid or work with those agencies remotely because it just seemed like they focus more on resume development and maybe some interview practice, and maybe some low-level computer skills like how to use Excel or Word, Microsoft Office, those kind of things, which I'm already very familiar with. However, if I'm finding out through this article that they have access to job listings that aren't on Indeed, Glassdoor, LinkedIn, or even the company's website, and if there are jobs that are in newspapers only, that's news to me. Okay? Multiple leading tech companies have already settled with the Department of Justice as a result of lawsuits for discriminating against American citizens during the perm labor market tests. For example, both Apple in 2023 and Facebook in 2021 had similar patterns of behavior during perm labor market tests. They didn't list postings on their websites. They required applications by postal mail only. You got to get out those stamps and envelopes and send in your resume and cover letter in hard copy form. You got to print it out. Or they didn't follow the same recruiting processes as for normal open roles. As a result of these unusual practices, very few or no Americans noticed or successfully applied for these roles. The Department of Justice alleged in these lawsuits that these practices constituted discrimination against American applicants as a preference for foreign workers in violation of the Immigration and Nationality Act. Okay, if it's a violation, fine them harder. These corporations, Facebook and Apple, they're multi-trillion-dollar companies. Unless you're giving them a $100 billion fee or fine, it's a slap on the wrist. What did you fine them? 20 million? 30 million? That's not enough. It's got to be multiple billions, maybe hundreds of billions to get them to act right. Kind of hard to do when they're funding your campaigns, huh? Anyway, like I said, despite those two lawsuits, other major companies appear to still be conducting perm labor market tests using the same discriminatory practices cited by the Department of Justice. Newspaper classified listings across the country are filled weekly with numerous ads from public companies and major venture capital funded entities like Instagram, ADM, OpenAI, requesting postal mail applications and job listings that don't appear on the company websites. So here's the hack. A quick review of the local classified section in virtually any major city will show dozens of large companies advertising these positions in manipulative and potentially discriminatory ways intended to avoid applications from American citizens. And here are some examples. Exhibits 1 through 4. This first one comes from the San Francisco Chronicle, their classified section. And it's from Instacart, San Francisco, California. Full-time, unspecified experience, unspecified education. They're looking for multiple roles. They want multiple senior associates for marketing strategy and planning with this kind of salary. The mid salary would be I guess, $141,000. Here's the job number that you would send in with, I guess, your resume. They're looking for a manager, specialized vendor services. Again, about $127,000 in the middle. There's that job requirement number, corporate finance associate. And it says you may be stationed anywhere in the U.S., so you can work remotely. You just be reporting to somebody in San Francisco. You have to mail your resume to Instacart with attention to someone with the first initial K, last name Kim, Global Mobility, 50 Beale Street, Suite 600, San Francisco, California. And you got to quote the job number. Exhibit 2, also from the San Francisco Chronicle classified section. This was March. A member of technical staff, software engineer, San Francisco, California, full-time, experience in education, see below. Member of technical staff, architect, build, design. This is for OpenAI. Architect, build, design, and maintain systems and tools that support the development of OpenAI's software products and services. Telecommute, so remote work. Permitted from within the U.S. Salary, $245,000 to $400,000 a year. So right in the middle is, I guess, around $315,000. Send your resume to Tatiana Zolatova, 1960 Bryant Street, San Francisco. So you got to mail it in. Here's a job. Chicago Tribune, less than 2 months ago. ADM Investor Services. Again, at the bottom, mail your resume to Christina Hertzer, ADM, Decatur, Illinois. And last, here's another example, Atlanta Journal, Constitution Classified section, September 7th. Ooh, that's within a month. IT professionals, entry level to senior level, so it could be anybody. Send your resume, cover letter, and salary requirements to this address. And the article kind of ends with employment for college graduates. Well, before I get to that, I was curious because I saw all this and I said, where it says in any major city you can find this kind of stuff. So I'm in the North Texas area. So what's a popular newspaper in this area? I said, well, the Dallas Morning News. Just out of curiosity, let me go to the Dallas Morning News. And I went to their classified section and I clicked on engineer IP network. No, I clicked on IT positions. And that took me here. IT positions with this company called Agile IT Services LLC. I guess it's a recruiting company. Posted September 21st, so a couple of weekends ago. And they're looking for data engineers, network engineers, and software developers. And I would fit more in the network engineer part because I know how to develop, install, upgrade, troubleshoot, network. That would be me. But here's what you got to do. For all jobs requires a master's in science, technology, or engineering, which I have. But you got to mail it. You got to mail your resume to HR, Agile IT Services, LLC, 6300 Stonewood Drive, Suite 106C, Plano, Texas. And I thought, they sound familiar. Do they have a website? They do. And you go to the website, and up here, network engineers, same job description, except they don't have all those abbreviations. Actually, they don't have DVLP. They have the whole word develop. But it's still the same address. Send resume to HR Department, Agile IT Services, 6300 Stonewood Drive, Suite 106C, Plano, Texas. Even though they have a section right here that says an email address. Share your resume along with the job title to this email address. They also have this down here where you can fill out a form, name, email, phone number, and upload your email and hit submit. Well, I did it this way. I sent them an email message. And I asked, I said, how is a postal mailed resume treated differently than an emailed resume? And this is what I got. Your mail was undeliverable. So something's wrong with this email address that they have on their website. Couldn't be delivered. I'll go back to their website and I went all the way to the bottom and I noticed, hey, the copyright's from 2020. That's 5 years ago. Is this website dead? Is this company existing? Well, this was a giveaway. The private limited corporation, that's usually overseas. And it's often an India-based company. But again, the listing's from September 22nd of this year. So even though their copyright hasn't been updated for their website, this is recent. And at the Dallas Morning News, again, it's September 21st. I even went to their LinkedIn webpage, and I could see that they have recent postings, not necessarily jobs. I think they did have jobs that were recent, but they also had a lot of articles related to employment and IT that they post. Their postings on LinkedIn were recent. So I don't know what's up with their email thing, but here's an example where you have to mail in your resume, apparently. So that's one of the hacks. We're probably going to have to get some stamps, maybe fax something on occasion as a way around this. Or also go to jobs.now because they specialize in trying to find these jobs or have people find these jobs and submit them to the site so we can get around this whole, we can't find Americans to fill these jobs. We have all these openings, but we don't have enough people to fill them. That's why we got to go outside of our country and import in this talent. And now that we have a surplus of talent, that's why they don't pay squat. I was telling one of the listeners of my video, my last video, hey, the only time I can recall in the last 10 years seeing another black engineer or Hispanic engineer was when I was in an environment where you had to be a citizen. And that's a shame, because I went to school with quite a few of them. I went to school with quite a few white people too. And we're starting to look rare. Americans are looking rare, and that's because 2 out of every 3 people in IT in America are foreign born. And that is a crisis, as I said in my video last week. And now that I know about these things, I can figure out some hacks to work around the problem. Here's some other suggestions. Well, here's a summary, and then there's some potential suggestions that we'll go through. It says employment for college graduates is under threat due to the changing labor market in 2025. Mainstream publications such as the Wall Street Journal have reported that unemployment for new college graduates is about the highest level in a decade. Well, of course, because the entry-level jobs, we have to go outside of our country and find people. We can't find them from our own colleges. American workers, especially young college graduate workers, are struggling to find work despite record high educational qualifications, which is hurting the economy for Americans. Amen to that. Again, this came out 4 days before the president's proclamation / executive order on September 19th. And now that you know this, you know how to play the game. We're going to have to maybe get ready to fax some stuff again, or buy some stamps and some envelopes. Actually go get some newspapers, because I did this via online, and online might not be everything. When I went to the Dallas Morning News, it might be more stuff in the physical newspaper, and your state level workforce agency might actually have newspapers. That might be a benefit of going to see them. Again, they may have things because they're required. These companies are required to post them someplace, and they might only post certain jobs with the state level workforce agencies that they would not post on their own website or LinkedIn, Glassdoor, or Indeed. Anyway, as I said, I keep learning about this. Next week, I'm going to try to talk about something that's not related to this. I've been trying, but things keep popping up. But I have something else in mind that I do want to talk about. If this is your first time checking me out, do me a favor and consider subscribing. It doesn't cost you anything. I'm not really doing this for money, but I am at the point where I have more videos than I have subscribers, and that's kind of embarrassing. If I want to get to 10,000 subscribers, I guess I need to make 10,000. No, I probably, at the rate I'm going right now, I need to make 20,000 videos to get 10,000 subscribers. So I just need to make like 10 videos a day for the next 8 years. And maybe I'll get there. But no, consider subscribing if this is your first time watching. And I don't know why I haven't hit 100 yet. I have an idea. One of the things that I have considered is I know I follow some people who are being throttled, who are being suppressed. And so by the fact that I'm following these kinds of folks, maybe the algorithm is saying, oh, you like those kind of people? We suppress them, we're going to suppress you too before you even really get started. So to work around that, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. Share it with people that you know. Because there are other channels talking about similar stuff, and they have a bigger following for some reason. The only reason I can think mine has been throttled is because, again, I'm following some people who I know are being throttled. There's a guy I know named Alfonso Rachel. He's had about 70,000 subscribers for over a decade. There's a guy named Mark Dice. He has 1.9 million subscribers, but he's had them for years. In fact, since I've been following him over the past 3 years, I haven't seen it move from 1.9 million. So And I also follow Candace Owens, and she has been kind of persona non grata, but for some reason they're allowing her to grow. She's growing like 100,000 subscribers a day right now. For a while, YouTube wasn't allowing her to be monetized. And that's why she double posts things here and maybe Rumble. So, again, fortunately, I don't need to do this for work, but it'd be nice to know that the effort I'm putting in is actually being listened to, that I'm not just talking to no one. I'm not saying you're no one. 47, I think the last time I checked, 47 subscribers is not no one. I know, what's his name? The guy's name, Marquez Brownlee, MKBHD. He has 20 million subscribers today. I think he said his first 100 videos, he still didn't have 1,000 subscribers. So some people blow up quickly. Some it takes a while. I've only been doing this since late December. Give it 18 months. Let's see what happens. But again, if this is your first time checking me out, consider hitting the subscribe button, maybe liking it, maybe commenting, maybe sharing it. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.